Olá, boa noite. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos a mais um evento do Instituto Confúcio para Negócios FAAP. Hoje à noite vimos apresentar um pouquinho sobre as etiquetas, né, no mundo dos negócios, né? Hoje em dia sabemos que o mundo está cada vez mais globalizado, então as empresas, né, o mundo empresarial está cada vez mais misturado, né? Tem uma mistura de culturas. E, como sabemos, este ano nós estamos comemorando os 48 anos das relações diplomáticas e de amizade entre Brasil e China, né? Então, nada vai fazer mais sentido, né, de organizar um evento como este. Hoje à noite nós estamos aqui com a doutora Júcia Xu. Nós convidamos, né, a nossa colega e amiga, né, a diretora chinesa do Instituto Confúcio para Negócios FAAP. Então, a professora Júcia Xu obteve seu doutorado numa universidade de Bonn, na Alemanha. Não vou me atrever a ler o nome da universidade. Ela obteve esse doutorado em 2004 e, desde então, tem se dedicado intensamente ao ensino e à pesquisa no campo da comunicação empresarial intercultural. Ela fez pesquisas também com uma bolsa Fulbright nos Estados Unidos e dirigiu o Instituto Confúcio da Universidade Autônoma de Nuevo León, no México. Atualmente é diretora do Instituto Confúcio para Negócios da FAAP e sua formação, então, multilingüe e seu interesse contínuo em negociação comercial fizeram dela uma pesquisadora ativa, né, nesse campo da comunicação empresarial. Então, assim, é uma grande honra, né, tê-la aqui hoje conosco. Hi, Seu Xu.
Hi.
Bom, o webinar vai ser em inglês, então, thanks a lot for accepting our invite, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Anna. Hi, hello everyone. I don't know whether you are watching this in the morning or in the evening or from what country, but whatever the time is, I wish you a good day. And without much to say in advance, I will go to my topic directly. Today, I will talk about what you need to know before negotiating with the Chinese business people. As you can see, I'm representing FAAP Institute of Confucius Institute for Business. And also, I was recommended, and for this program, this company that is Mandarin Mathematics, based in the United States, gave a lot of promotion, and they advertise on their website, and you know that's why they asked me to put their logo here too. So now let me go to the first slide, except this one. Okay. I'd like to make a brief introduction, although my colleague, Anna, made the introduction in Portuguese. I believe that a lot of the audience are English-speaking people, so I'm going to make a brief introduction about myself. You know, here's my name. In Chinese, it's pronounced as Zhu Xiaoshu. You know, for those who are not very familiar with this order, you know, in Chinese, we put family names first and then given name. Okay, anyway, in my case, to make things easier for my colleagues from other countries, I've named myself Sophie. So almost everyone here knows me by the name Sophie. So, okay. So if you have questions, you can also address Sophie, okay? Okay, I'm a professor and trainer specialized in intercultural business communication, and I work with 5 languages. That is Chinese, my native tongue, English, which I learned from a very, very early age, and German, where I studied for my PhD, Spanish, because I used to work in Mexico, so I learned Spanish, and then now Portuguese. My Portuguese is unfortunately not very good, but my listening comprehension and reading comprehension are great, although speaking comes a little bit slow. I will work hard on that, by the way. And I have studied and worked in different countries, in China, in Germany, the United States, Mexico, and now Brazil. I like all of them. And I often get the question that which country I like best. In fact, I like all of them. And I'm also the vice chairman or chairwoman of the China Association of International Business Negotiation and Cross-Cultural Communication, and also a negotiation trainer. I believe that there are born negotiators, but not many. A lot of us will become great negotiators if we are trained. Next, please. Okay. In today's lecture, I'm going to talk about the following topics or subtopics. The first is be equipped before negotiating with your Chinese counterparts. That is, I will introduce briefly the Chinese business etiquettes, and then characteristics of communication with the Chinese people in general, and possible misunderstandings, and also cultural beliefs of and the characteristics, especially true of Chinese business people. Some to-do suggestions when negotiating with the Chinese business people. And also, I will ask your opinion if we are going to hold future training topics. So, primarily, this speech or this lecture today is for the China Import Expo in November. As you can see, some brief information here I have got from the website. That is the date, November the 5th till the 10th. And here is the official link. If you guys are interested in this, you can click on it, or you can make a copy or make a photo of it and then go and check the website. Originally, this lecture is planned for this big event in China, because I believe many of you want to export your products or services to China, and that's where I can help you. Next, please. You know, before I start, I'd like to give you this Chinese philosophy in doing business. In Chinese, it's called 穷则独善其身, 达则兼善天下. That is, be good on your own when you are poor and share with others when you are rich. No, although we are not very rich yet, we believe we should share with the world. And that's what I'm doing. Okay, next, please. The first subtopic is be equipped before starting out. That is some Chinese business etiquettes. First, I will start from introduction and self-introduction in negotiation settings. You know, in Chinese, you know, we are a culture which pays a lot of attention to hierarchy. So when you meet Chinese negotiation teams, you should be very clear about their rank and status, possibly of all the members in the negotiation team. When you greet them, you should do it from high to low. As you can see in the little picture here, I'll put one figure on top and then two and then more. You can see that shows the idea of hierarchy. And then age, from old to young, as you can see here. In China, if you say, or you see yourself, oh, I'm older than you, oh, I'm getting old. That's not something to be ashamed of, because in our understanding, or in our cultural understanding, being older means that you have more experience in life. You will be well seasoned. Okay, and then if you give someone a handshake, be sure to give it a firm handshake. Okay, handshake versus rank and position. Usually, the person with a higher rank reaches out first and to shake your hand. Or if you are higher in rank, you should do it first. That's the rule, the small rule about who reaches out first. And then small talk usually follows. Small talk like, how was your flight? How was, traffic from the airport to the hotel, etc., etc. That's what I mean by small talk. Okay, next, handing over name cards. As you can see in this picture, we usually do it with both hands. And if your company has giving you a name card, both in the local language and in English, ideally the English side should face up, because many people in China read English or understand English. So if you don't have Chinese, it's okay, but be sure to keep the English side facing up. And then addressing the giver of the name card by rank or position. And studying the name card a little bit, at least before putting it away. Okay, you should read it before you put the name card away. There is one thing I would like to remind you, that is in negotiation occasions, usually we put the name cards in the order of the other team's seating order. That is, the name cards are placed on the desk in front of you, exactly in the same order in which the other team is seated. That's the rule. Next, okay. Afterwards, you will be entertained, or even though during the negotiation, you have two kinds of arrangements. One is the round table and the other is the long table. The round table is this. Usually the round table is, conveys more the idea of equalness. But in spite of that, we consider the seat. Let's suppose this one is next to the window. We consider this as the most important. And in this long table setting, it is easier to identify. This is the most important figure. Yeah. But in negotiations, usually there is no one who sits here. Usually one team, negotiations team sits on this side and the other on this side. And usually the most important person sits in the middle of this long table. Okay, so that's the small rule. It's good and useful to keep it in mind. When you go to China, if we don't serve coffee or serve tea instead, the standard or the recommended practice is that when someone gives you tea or pours more tea after you have the first one, usually your hands goes this way, as if you are nodding your head to say thank you. Okay, that's the correct way to do it. And when you have dinners, business dinners, we sell beverages or alcoholic drinks. Usually you can have both, but it's up to you to order which one. And then we serve courses of dishes, not like the Western style. We have you have appetizers first and main course, and then dessert, etc., etc. In China, everything will be placed on the table at the same time, or they can be one after another, but they put it together on the round table usually. And then we serve some cereal food like rice or noodles. when you use chopsticks, normally we have a chopstick stand like this one shown here. But if we don't, if you eat rice, for some reason you have to leave temporarily, you can never put your chopsticks this way, because this is the way to honor the dead in the Chinese folk culture. And this is okay if you put your chopsticks like this when they don't have a chopstick stand like this one. So it is okay. It is the correct way of behavior. Okay, now let me talk about formative address. That is calling someone. You can either address them director or manager, so and so, or you can also call them by their profession. You say professor or engineer, so and so. For some reason, in some informal occasions, you meet your managers or the other team's managers, senior father or mother. You can call him or her by uncle or aunt. That's okay. The practice of taking a Western name, a given name, is very popular in China, especially in the professional world. In my case, it's like this, Sophie. That's the first one. I hope it helps you to make a good introduction or a good first impression of yourselves. And then let's come to the second subtopic. Characteristics of communication with the Chinese people in general and possible misunderstandings. So, Chinese culture is known for the Chinese modesty, indirectness. We have a strong concept of faith, and usually when we are praised, we usually give some kind of understatement. And Chinese virtues of thrift, respect for seniority, and Chinese way of giving advice. Okay, what do I mean by all this? I will give you an example of each briefly, okay? Chinese modesty, okay. Usually when we are praised, especially, we don't show that we are very proud of them, of ourselves. For example, if someone says, "Oh, wow, you speak 5 languages," I would, I would say thank you, first of all. But then I would add some kind of understatement, like, I have specialized in language ever since I was little. So no, it's common. It's not such a big deal. I would say something like this. Okay, if someone praises you in the Chinese context, it's not, so correct to say, I'm really proud of myself. You guys should learn from me, something like that, of that kind. That's what I mean. Indirectness. Indirectness is shown mostly by the way people talk. So if I'm not, let's say I do not quite agree with you. I will say, in fact, I have another way of thinking. Oh, that's, I tend to think differently. Instead of rejecting you directly, we may do it indirectly. Okay. Next, the Chinese virtue of thrift and respect for seniority. I've just said that. It's okay. Thrift. What do I mean by thrift? Okay, let's say if I print something, if I print something, and for some reason I have done that is wrongly. Instead of throwing the paper away, I may use the back side to write something unimportant or take some notes. But if you think, we don't need that, we can throw it away, it's totally okay. But normally we would make full use of the things or even office facilities and office devices in our daily life. That's what I mean by Chinese thrift. Okay, Chinese way of giving advice. So if you go to China and you just get off the plane, you're sort of not feeling well, a Chinese person tends to say, why don't you take some Chinese medicine? Like blah, blah, the Chinese herbal medicine. It is very good for your situation. They would give you suggestions like that. It does not mean that they want to interfere with your personal life. You do not know what you are doing, or you do not know what medicine you should take. It's just their way of showing concern for you. Don't take it wrongly. That's very important in business occasions. So you should remember that, okay? You should keep that definitely in mind. Okay, next, nonverbal behaviors, gestures, thank you, greeting, coming here. Okay, thank you. Maybe we will do it this way. It's okay. Greeting. Okay. Hi. Hi. We do it this way. That's greeting. And coming here. Our coming here is this way, with our fingers like this. Okay. We don't do it this way, because doing it this way can be misunderstood as trying to take liberty with a woman. So that's very bad. So don't do your come here this way. Instead, you should do it this way, always. Remember. Okay, handshakes are safe. No matter who you meet with, it's safe to have a handshake. Hugs only among close, very, very close friends. We don't hug that much. Keep that in mind. Standing distance. Usually, when we are not very familiar with each other, we may stand a meter away from each other. Okay, that's the standard distance. Walking sequence. When you enter a door, and usually the VIP goes first, or who are senior, who has a higher rank, they go in and go out first. And then if you are not that high in rank, you'd better wait till the right moment, then you leave. Looking at somebody in the eye, but not staring. In our culture, it's okay to look at somebody. Unlike in some other cultures where looking at each other directly in the eye is impolite. In our culture, it's okay. But do not stare. You should try to move your eyes naturally, not stare at that person. That's important, okay? So here is some information about nonverbal behavior. Now let's come to the Chinese concept of time. In cities, especially big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, etc., where economy is highly developed, generally people adhere to M time. That is, people stick to their time schedules strictly. In rural areas, however, especially in undeveloped areas, people usually adhere to P time. If you don't understand what is P time or M time, you can check at Word Hall. Yeah, okay. And here is also some brief introduction of what is M time and what is a P time. M time is short from monochronic, and P time is polychronic time. Oh, here is the characteristic of each. Okay. Next, I want to give you an example of the Chinese invitation pattern. For example, if I want to invite someone to dinner, or especially a friend, I would put it this way. Look at our conversation. I would say, hi, Jenny, I would like to invite you to dinner today to thank you for your help with my project. And she would reply, don't bother, it's my pleasure to help. No need to invite me to dinner. Besides, I know you are extremely busy. I would say, I admit that I'm busy, but I have to find time to eat. Having dinner together is just all about finding an opportunity for us to talk. And then Jenny replies, if you put it that way, I guess it's hard for me to refuse. In that case, let's have a simple dinner together. Promise me not to spend too much on it. And then I say, okay, I'll see you downstairs after work today. And she replies, okay, thank you, see you then. You can see from this pattern, we make, okay, the inviter makes the initiative. He or she begins first, the invitation. And then at the first round, the invitee, or the person who is invited, sort of refuse it at first. And then the inviter insists. And then the invitee accepts conditionally. And then they come to the exact time and place for eating or for the activity, okay? You can see that's the typical Chinese pattern. But if you want to invite a Chinese person to dinner, if you stop at this round, so you are wrong. Okay, don't do that. You should insist, and then this thing will happen. Okay, that's the Chinese pattern. Okay, next one, please. Okay, here, up till here, I have said something about nonverbal communication and the Chinese pattern for inviting, etc. Okay, now let's come to the next subtopic, the third subtopic. Why such differences? Some facts about cultures. I'll be very quick about this part. We see cultural diversity versus individual styles. Although it is necessary to generalize in order to draw useful conclusions about the effects of culture on communication and everything else, the culture of most countries is not homogeneous, okay? So we call it the bell-shaped curve. That is, the majority of the population are found in this curved highest points in this, the majority, or the 70 or even 80% of the population fits this curve. And then only a minority fits either here or here. Okay, if you say the Chinese are fond of tea, they drink tea every day, this is not true of me. My colleague Anna, who introduced me just now, she can tell you. She likes tea even better, or she drinks tea even more often than I do. I may drink it, let's say, only once a year when I don't have any other drinks for choice, and I will drink tea. Otherwise, I will not drink tea. Okay, I don't drink tea. If you say Chinese people are very fond of tea, they drink tea every day, that's false of me. And if you say Chinese don't speak up, they are very silent, they don't like to express their opinions, that's also wrong of me. And I know that whenever I have something, I think of something, I say, hey, Anna, listen, I will do this and that, blah, blah, okay? So that's our style of communication. So that by this, I mean that not every person fits this majority part. Yeah, in my case, if you think I'm here or I'm here, both are correct. But if you think I'm here, you are wrong. Okay, next, please. Cultural diversity versus individual styles. We say cultures comprise individuals with a wide variety of backgrounds. You think about men and women, rural and urban, people from different geographic regions, people from different ethnic groups, people with different levels of education. Therefore, for every characteristic, there is a distribution of individuals. You know, that curve-shaped or central tendency. There are people who are away from that, okay? Yeah, that's what I mean. Next, please. Okay. In both the West and China, communication styles are diverse, contradictory, and overlapping. as you can see in this figure. I won't come to details about this because I promised to be quick in this part. Next, please. Cultural diversity versus individual styles. Therefore, we need to avoid culture stereotyping. Nevertheless, Westerners and Chinese have been informed by thousands of years of history, influenced, not informed, sorry. Westerners and Chinese have been influenced by thousands of years of history that have caused them to diverge culturally and behaviorally. It is the divergence that is the source of misunderstanding and miscommunication. In fact, when we learn cross-cultural communication, the only advice I can give you is that try to judge a person when you meet him or her, because you can never come to a complete understanding. You can never come to a complete understanding of this person unless you meet him and you talk to him. Okay, so that's the only way to get to know this person. Next, I will say something about differences between West and Chinese cultures, and overview, really quick one. So you can see the Western tradition, and all the Western culture is Eurocentric, derived from Greco-Roman, influenced by Judeo-Christian values, while the Chinese is not. Okay. Chinese culture is mainly influenced by Lao Tzu, the nominal founder of Taoism, and Confucius, founder of Confucianism, and Shang Yang, founder of legalism. Chinese culture is neo-Confucianist, that is derived from Confucianism and Taoism, and influenced by legalistic and Buddhist values after the 1850s, further influenced by the Western ideas. That's a brief history. Differences between Asian and Western cultures can also be seen in that the different approaches to thinking about the nature of humans and their place in the world led to two fundamental areas of difference between Asian and Western cultures: views about the self and views about the cosmos. Taken together, they create a two-dimensional model for understanding culture, that is, the views about the self and the views about the cosmos. Origin of Western views about the self. Ancient Greeks, strong belief in the importance of the individual and the freedom of the individual to affect his or her own life through direct action. Focus on individuals accomplishing things through personal agency. Okay, as you can see in this picture, self. The self has a very important position in the Western culture. And oral public debate was the vehicle for democratic expression. Anyone had the right to espouse an idea. The one with the most persuasive argument could win the debate. Public disagreement was tolerated, even encouraged. Social order was relatively flat, and citizens were politically equal. Individual initiative was valued. But in China, we see origin of Chinese views about the self. As you can see, this is the harmonious society, especially in Asian China. We say survival depended on the individuals being part of a collective. Individual identity was defined in terms of the roles that one plays in life. Focus on individuals accomplishing things through group agency. So, sometimes you don't understand why Chinese send out very big negotiation teams, because that's the way how it works in China. We work in a group. we see, you can also see it as a group identity. To avoid expulsion from the collective, it was important to maintain harmonious relationships with others in the group. Maintaining good personal relationships was necessary for survival. Social order was hierarchical. Individual initiative was suppressed. This, you can notice that it was all in the past tense. That is, I was saying something about Asian China. But to some extent, this is still true. All this are still true, currently. Divergent views about the self lead to cultural divergence. Chinese collectivist culture, the self is defined in relationship with others, we-oriented, stress on fitting in and belonging to the group. Needs of the group take precedence over the needs of the individual. Good personal relationships are necessary. This is still true today. While the Western counterpart is like this, the self is defined in isolation from others, I-oriented, emphasis on self-actualization and the achievements of the individual, emphasis on individual rights, independence, and freedom. Personal relationships are useful, but not necessary. So here is the list for comparison. I won't read it one by one. You guys can take a look and even take a picture. Next, please. Okay. Okay, so much for the culture characteristics in general. Now let's come to some cultural beliefs and characteristics, specifically true of Chinese business people. Oh, here comes the core part, okay? Okay, there are a few things I would like to point out, especially in the business context. The first thing is honesty, always the best policy or the best principle. Honesty here means doing business with your counterpart with the best of intentions. That is not to deceive the other party. Example of results of or consequences. Businessman from country A. Okay, let me give you this example using some more explanation. This was an incident. Let's say it took place in country A. Or country A or B or whatever, or country X. Don't try to guess which country it is, because I'm just using a letter randomly. Okay. It was like this. The businessman from this country, his company signed a contract with a Chinese company, and I think this company from country A was trying to import something from China, and they agreed to make the payment in 3 installments, 1, 2, 3. He made the first two payments, but when it comes to the third one, he just thought he was clever. He invented excuses. He invented situations which he gave explanation that it was impossible for him to make the end payment, etc., etc. You know what happened? As a result or as a consequence, he was put on the list of, we say it's a blacklist, not in the sense of trying to scandal someone. He was put in the list of untrustworthy. So starting from that moment, no other Chinese companies were willing to do business with that company, and the Chinese embassy or consulate in that country spread the information that this country was, this company was not reliable, so no further business in China. So that's the importance of honesty. Don't think that nowadays is unimportant. Okay, okay. The previous one, please, Leo. I hadn't finished. Previous one. Okay. The common belief is that you are not the only one who is shrewd. Others may be even more so than you are. Just they choose not to use it. That's the thing. Another thing I want to point out is that first impression principle. It's always good to give the good first impression, because if the first impression is bad, it's very hard for you to change afterwards. Okay, next please. Okay, trust and trustworthiness. Establishing trust of supreme importance. What do I mean by this? So, the most important thing in doing business is trust. Sometimes even for the items that are not covered in the contract, if you have trust, you can still accomplish many, many things, or you can accomplish more than you think. That's the importance of trust. Proving yourself to be trustworthy of vital importance. Okay, if you have proved yourself to be trustworthy, it means more business in China. As I have just said, this presentation is specifically for the China Import Expo in November. That is a month from, it's not even a month, it's about a little bit more than 3 weeks away from now. So if you want to get your products or services to China, you can think, even you can get your products or services to only 1% of China's population, you will become a billionaire, okay? So just prove yourself to be trustworthy, and you establishing trust. Half of your business, or more than half of your business, is done. Trust and trustworthiness mean more than contract value, okay? So this is a golden sentence, golden, golden, and golden. So you should always keep in mind, okay, trust and trustworthiness. Promise versus trustworthiness. A promise is a promise. Never make a promise that you cannot keep. In trust building, every little bit counts. For example, responding immediately to instant messages, reputation built by word of mouth. These two things. What do I mean by here? By this? Responding immediately to instant messages. In China, almost everyone uses WeChat. The equivalent version would be WhatsApp here in Brazil, or also WhatsApp in many other countries. If you get an instant message, especially in the business context, you should respond it immediately. If for some reason it is daytime there, or it's daytime here, it's nighttime there, or it's nighttime here, or somehow it's inconvenient for you to make an instant reply, just apologize afterwards before you respond to their messages, okay? So this is very important. We say reputation is built by word of mouth. What do we mean by it? Sometimes people just don't need to say, this company is good or that company is bad using social media. They just do it by word of mouth. You look at this little picture, you see what I mean. In China, if two persons do this, it means that they have made a promise to each other. And normally also they click their two thumbs together too. In addition to this little fingers. Okay, that means a promise has been made. Next, please. Contracts versus relationship building. Contract, binding or non-binding, depends on the relationship. you think, what? This is ridiculous, or this is, unimaginable. Yes, this can be unimaginable for some of you. But, even something that is not in the contract, or something is in the contract, if you have a good relationship, sometimes it works better than the contract items. Relationship equals to trust plus trustworthiness. If you trust each other, if you find each other trustworthy, it means you have a good relationship. Good relationship means more than contract. For example, it's okay to say no if you can't do something. It is far better than the silent treatment of no reply. I found, unfortunately, in some contexts, when people are so reluctant to say no, they don't just say no. Instead, they give me the silent treatment of no reply, which bothers me a lot. I think this can apply to you. That's why I put it here. So if you go to China, if you cannot do something, it's okay to say it. It's okay to put it on the table. And then you just tell your counterpart why you cannot do it. Don't give them the silent treatment of no reply. This is not very polite. Okay, next, please. Okay, neutrality, and two-way communication, two-way favors. Give and take is true for the past, the present, and extends to the future. For example, win-win or win-lose calculation should be on a continuum basis. What do I mean by this? Sometimes I have had people who told me, oh, I understand what neutrality means. That is, you take this and I take that. You give this and I take that, or vice versa. But understand it as a continuum. So this time, maybe you think you lose in the business sense. But in return or in exchange for this, you may get or you may win next time in the future, okay? Or in the near future even. So do not calculate your wins or your loss on a one-time basis, okay? That's the thing. I have not put it in words, but I have said it. So it's good for you to take notes. I will say it again. It's good to calculate your takes and gives on a continuum. Do not calculate it on a one-time basis. Okay? Okay, next, please. We understand long-term thinking as past, present, or now, and future. And in Chinese, we say 买卖不成，仁义在. Oh, sorry, the one Chinese character is missing. I'm sorry. It means friendly relationships should exist between buyer and seller, even if they fail to clinch a deal at the present. Even if you have not come to some kind of agreement or a contract this time, don't close the door for future cooperations. This may mean that in the future, you will have more opportunities to cooperate. Because in English, we say no one really knows what is going to happen. No one can predict the future. So you just extend your long-term thinking into the future. Is important. Verbal versus non-verbal messages. The Chinese language is highly contextual. That is, a lot depends on the context or even paralinguistic features. What is a paralinguistic feature? Okay, something like, well, I think, perhaps, this kind of thing, or the tone, or the pitch, and something like this can be called paralinguistic features. It's not what people say, but the way they say it tells you something, what they are thinking, okay? So we say meaning of what you understand of what you mean is construed from the way you say it. This leads to trust and trustworthy interpretation. Be careful with your nonverbal messages sent, especially unintentionally. So if you unintentionally send a bad nonverbal message, it's not good for your business. So some typical work-related beliefs. Yeah, some people say, "Oh, Chinese are so hardworking." Are they hardworking? Yes. If you are interested, you can watch these two videos as I listed here, and you will understand the Chinese work ethic. Okay, why Chinese businessmen are so hardworking, or Chinese people in general are hardworking. You will understand them better. Okay, next, please. Okay, finally, some to-do suggestions when negotiating with the Chinese business people. What you should do. First of all, I say differentiating wants and needs. What do I mean by that? I say wants correspond to the positions both parties or both sides take in their conflict, and needs correspond to their respective underlying interests. There is a direct relationship between issues, wants, and needs in negotiation. The negotiators express different wants depending on their perspective on the issue, differentiating what your negotiation party really wants and needs. This is taken from Gosselin 2007, Practical Negotiating Tools, Techniques, published by Billy. Okay, and also the following a few slides are taken from this book. Okay, what do I mean by this, or what Gosselin means by this? What is want and needs? I will give you a very familiar example, day-to-day example. Okay, let's say you are a middle-aged manager. You have a son or daughter who has just graduated from college, and he or she has just started working in a decent company or in a decent organization or institution. One day, he or she comes up to you and say, "Dad, I want to buy a new car." And you go, "Why?" He or she said, "I need to go to work in a car." Okay, just think, what is his or her want in this situation? Maybe what he or she really needs is a reliable transportation to work. Instead of promising him or her a new car, you can say, "Okay, we have an old car in the garage, you can fix it, and you go to work in this old car." Or you say, "You know, your company is only 10 minutes away by bicycle, so you should go to work in a bike." Why does this girl or boy or your son or your daughter want to buy a new car? He wants to show off, maybe, mainly, instead of the real need of going to work in this vehicle. You see, that's what I mean by differentiating wants and needs. If you understand the wants and needs of the other party, you can do a better job in the negotiation. Of course, this is not so simple. We can do it in future negotiation training sessions. So I will leave it here and go to the next slide. So next we say currencies, understanding currencies. What do we mean by currencies? Negotiation is a process of exchange, and the give and take of currencies is essential to negotiating. Currencies, tangible or intangible resources that are perceived to have value by the receiving party. After the underlying needs of both parties have been identified, the next step is to search for the exchange currencies that will satisfy their needs. Okay, currencies does not mean USD or Brazilian reais or Chinese yuan or whatever, or euros even. Here means currencies. So how to exchange currencies is another topic in negotiation training. I can't go to details here because of the time. Okay, next, please. So for the different kinds of currencies, we have financial, people, facilities, equipment, priorities, information, recognition and rewards, proprietary agreement, mitigation of risks. Okay, all these are currencies, okay? All these, what I listed here are currencies. I say use them creatively to satisfy your partner's needs. Avoid currency myopia. Okay, especially for negotiation beginners, they tend to concentrate on financial currency. For example, I want 500 USD per ton for this product. And you say, no, 500 is not okay. Let's do it at 450. These beginners will focus only on financial currencies, or they can only see financial currencies. They tend to ignore, they tend not to see these other kinds of currencies. This is another important topic in negotiation training. In fact, in the past, when we come to this part, all my students, no matter what level, and undergraduate, postgraduate, or professionals, they all like this part. And they told me that when they learn this, how to exchange this, they think the world has become better for them. They say they have expanded their resources. So this is another important topic in negotiation training. We can only do it later. Okay, negotiation power is the next thing I want to talk about, or I want to mention briefly, at least because of time. We say negotiation power has to do with whether it is the buyer's or the seller's market. However, it also depends on how well prepared, in the sense of how well you can satisfy your partner's needs, how well prepared you are for a certain negotiation. So if you can satisfy the other partner's needs, you can do a better job, believe me. We say preparation improves your confidence level and your perception of power. So how to make preparations and what to say, what not to say, etc., etc. This is another big topic, believe me. It's another subtopic for negotiation training. Negotiation for a win-win outcome. In a true win-win negotiation, both parties meet their underlying need and the relationship is sustained or improved in the process. Thus, how you negotiate as well as what you negotiate affects the outcome, whether it is win-win or win-lose or lose-lose. If you have cultivated a good relationship with a Chinese negotiation partner, it means more business for you in China. So we say win-win negotiations is all about expanding the pie. It's not about dividing the same pie, whether you have a bigger part or I do. It's about expanding the pie. That's the real gist of negotiation. Be as professional as possible in negotiations. Okay, remember this slide, okay? So this can be the takeaway of today's presentation. Develop the mindset of negotiation. Understand give and take, which means exchange. And also do not regard yourself as the only one clever. As I said, you are not the only one shrewd or clever. Others are more so, but they choose not to do it. Use adversarial negotiation tactics sparingly. Drive towards win-win creatively. Find options voluntarily. Use your cross-cultural communication skills proactively. Okay, next. Okay, I want to stop here. Before I stop, I would like to ask you 3 questions. What is new information for you in today's training session? Any takeaways for you? And the second question is, what would you like the trainer to elaborate on in future negotiation trainings? If our FAAP Confucius Institute is going to host future negotiation trainings. What topics would you like us to elaborate on? The third one, which is related to the presentation today, I asked, why did I introduce myself the way I did at the beginning of the lecture? Leo, please turn to the slide of my self-introduction. Further, no, next. Yes, okay. Look at this one. Look at this slide. You can see I say a professor and trainer, being able to work with 5 languages, having studied, and vice chairman. Okay, why did I introduce the way I did? You know, in our understanding, okay? So who am I? I'm a professor and a trainer. So you know who am I? So directly, the first key information I have given you in the first sentence. And why? Okay, why am I? At least some of you, some people in the audience, consider it a special gift to speak 5 languages. Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. And then, having studied in Germany, you know, people tend to think that Germans are very, they do everything seriously, and it's not easy to get a degree in Germany. And the fact of having obtained a degree, a PhD degree in Germany, gives you the impression that I can stick out in hard situations. Yeah. And vice chairman of the China Association of International Business Negotiation. That means I have the qualification to teach this lecture, to present this lecture. You know, the same is of your products. If you want to export your products through the Import-Expo of China in November 2022, you'd better introduce your products in a way that is convincing and believable for people or for the audience. Okay, so that's the way I want you to do. That's the thing I want you to learn today. Okay, the last slide, Leo, please. Topics for future negotiation training sessions. I have given you some choices here. Okay, for example, negotiation strategies, core skills in practical negotiations, that is questioning, how to raise questions, how to persuade, listen, and emotion control, how to do all this. And negotiation versus cross-cultural communication. Why is negotiation also an occasion for cross-cultural communication? In what sense and how? Negotiation tactics, I have mentioned briefly win-win and win-lose. What are these? How can we apply them? Interest and medium options. Interest means whether you win, you consider yourself you win or lose, etc. Medium options, whether you do it online or face-to-face, etc., etc. Yeah, and you know, all this is another topic. Common business negotiation resolution processes and related documentation. What is an agreement and what is a contract? Any difference between agreement and a contract? Why and how? In what? Another topic for future negotiation training. Negotiation at work. You know, I believe most of you are not, engaging in the import and export business, but maybe you also, or maybe I may say, very likely that you also use negotiation, or at least some of the negotiation tactics I mentioned today. So, how to use negotiation tactics at work, and how to be a better negotiator at work. All this deserve another topic. And lastly, put everything together and how to be a good negotiator. That is tactics, preparation, execution, and follow up. Okay, So if you are interested in all, that's okay. With this, I want to stop, and I want to thank you very much for your attention. I especially want to thank my colleagues, Anna, who introduced me, Leo, who has been making great preparations for this event, and then has tested with me and has cooperated with me in many, many occasions. Many, many thanks, Leo, and also for playing the PPT for me today. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you, audience, and thank you, everyone. With this, I want to stop and see whether you have any questions. Anna, please.
Thank you, Xiaoshu. Thank you for sharing such a rich content. You know, we need to know nowadays. I think that this kind of topic, you know, that's very important to understand each other, right? So I'm seeing here the comment in YouTube. We have no question right now, but please, if you can contribute to leave the comment, okay, here in YouTube. So later we can organize another training or another webinar about this topic. And as Xiaoshu said before, if you are interested to go deeper on this topic, you can contact us because we provide this kind of content, you know, webinars and training, like about negotiation, about intercultural competence with Chinese. So this topic is a hot topic right now, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
If you have no further questions, we'll stop here today. Thank you again, and one more time, Anna and Leo, who have helped me with this presentation and with this event. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good night, and see you at our next event. Thanks, and bye-bye, everybody.
See you. Thank you.
Okay.